Hey there, my name is Alex, I am the Silver Mont, and this is my review of Daemon X Machina, played on PC. This is not a sponsored review, I bought the game with my own money. I played the demo on Switch a good while back, and thought the game looked great, but I couldn't deal with the Switch's controls and performance for this particular title. But what is Daemon X Machina? Well, it's a love letter to giant fighting robots. Things like Gundam, Armored Core, and so forth. It was an exclusive launch title for Switch some months ago, but we've recently had a PC port, and I picked that up immediately as I was very interested in the game, as I really like giant robots. That said, my love for them was born more from things like Erika 7 and Zone of the Enders, as opposed to, say, Armored Core and Mech Warrior, which you could say are slightly more grounded and realistic, whereas Zone of the Enders was described as high-speed robot action, something along those lines, you know, in the 22nd century mankind was free from gravity, all that dramatic fun stuff. Daemon X Machina, as you'll see in this video, is quite fantastic and fast in that sense, and it was totally my kind of thing. The game's PC port seems to lack a mouse cursor, but otherwise you can play the game with mouse and keyboard just fine. I chose to use a gamepad though. There are Japanese and English voices. Usually in a game like this I'd go with the Japanese voices, but there's so much talking in the middle of missions, which are all quite hectic anyway, that I had to go with English just so I could keep up with what was being said, as I didn't have time to read the Japanese whilst also looking at 20 things on the screen. The game features support for frame rates up to 200 FPS, which is nice too. Graphical options are relatively limited, but considering the game's style, I don't think that's a problem. It's a very eye-catching and appealing game with high contrast visuals. Overall, the PC port seems fine to me. I've not had any crashes or major issues with it. A few frame rate dips here and there, but I imagine the things like that will get improved in time with patches and whatnot. As for the actual game, well, it's broken up into the single-player story campaign and the online sections. Online itself features a versus mode where you fight other players, co-op missions, and then expeditions. Co-op missions involve things such as fighting powered-up bosses, so you can get rare items and the like, whereas expeditions are more akin to going through a dungeon with other players and fighting lots of enemies. All of the game's missions and general gameplay do lend themselves to a mobile or short burst type of gameplay, which could be a result of the game being designed for Switch, perhaps. Simply put, you prepare for a mission, carry it out, and return to your base, all within the span of usually around 10 minutes. A little like Monster Hunter, but as mentioned, missions are on the rather short side, so perfect for, say, a train journey or something. But how about the mechs? Obviously that's the main appeal here. Well, your mech can have a weapon in each hand, as well as 2 backup weapons on pylons that you can swap to in a manner, well, anyone who's played Dark Souls will be familiar with. A quick tap left or right on the D-pad will swap to the weapon you stored on your pylons. You can then also have another powerful weapon mounted on your shoulder, and finally an auxiliary item such as chaff to stop incoming missiles, a rocket booster to move you faster or to rapidly descend, and so on. It goes without saying, the more weapons you equip, the heavier your robot will be. But as for your sort of main weapons that you hold in each hand, assault rifles, pistols, shotguns, SMGs, bazookas, swords, laser guns, hammers, and so on. My favourite weapons are probably the shoulder-mounted weapons though, which can range from homing multi-missile launchers, laser cannons, and whatnot. I've not seen them all yet, but there's a lot of variety and the guns and weapons all feel rather well balanced. As in, there's no weapon I've had so far that went, oh yeah, this feels like it's way better than everything else. It feels like you can build your mech towards a certain playstyle, and it will have its advantages and disadvantages. For example, if you want to go melee only, you can. You'd need to be really fast because you wouldn't have any ranged options, you know? So you'd have to make sure that you have lots of stamina, and more importantly that you're just so fast no one can get away from you. As for the armor or components of your mech, which are known as arsenals in this game, well, they of course range from heavy to light, long range and close range, defensive, offensive. These can make your mech look like an absolute unit beefy boy, or a speedy agile one with a slim silhouette. And of course you can change the colours and add on stickers and things like that to your machine. One slight issue I have here, metallic hues or paints are locked into the game's online mode, and if you want, say, I don't know, a silver, metallic arsenal, you're gonna have to complete 250 online missions. And hey, I really like shiny robots. That aside, you can of course save loadouts for your arsenal, so you might want one that is suited for fighting a giant single target, and then another loadout which is for fighting other arsenals, or for multi-enemy missions and so on and so forth. A giant laser cannon that you have to channel, for example, might be great against one slow-moving massive target, but against another arsenal that's zipping around like a bee, probably not as good. As for gameplay, most missions in the campaign play out in a straightforward manner. Accept a mission, get a briefing where you're introduced to other pilots who will decide if they'll join the mission or not, then you go into the mission and end up fighting this, that or something else. There isn't a great variety in the missions, but then it's not really what I'd look for in a game like this. But speaking of the pilots, you can customize your pilot in DXM, from their gender, voice and then also upgrades. I have a slight issue with these upgrades in that some of them can change what your character looks like in drastic ways, but you have no way of previewing it outside of searching on the internet for what it's going to look like. And it costs in-game money to respec and undo those upgrades, and you can't just undo the last one, you have to start from the very beginning, which then costs even more money as you unlock everything up to that point again. I think the system is ill thought out because it could easily be solved by just showing us what these changes will look like before we buy the item in question, or allowing us to undo the last upgrade and get our money back, something like that. It isn't a huge problem, as you can easily grind more money, it's just a rather baffling one because it's not fun to buy an upgrade and then suddenly your character looks stupid with giant clown feet. Alternatively, you can forego the upgrades and keep your character 100% human. Gameplay is fast and frantic and feels good, especially when you're firing both weapons and your shoulder-mounted weapon at the same time. It really feels like you're unloading on the enemy some huge barrage of firepower. You can move very quickly and the animations have a lot of style and personality, as well as feeling impactful. Considering how zippy and fast you can be, the robots still have a good sense of momentum and impact behind their every motion. There is a stamina bar that judges, well, your stamina, your boosting and dashing. Then there's the femto gauge, which is used by certain laser weapons, and you can use it to activate a sort of doppelganger. And aside from the bits where you can jump out of your robot and play as your pilot, which I try to avoid doing because it's a mech game and I want to play as the mech, there's the, well, I've forgotten what it's called, but it's special boosts that augment part of your robot for a short time, such as augmenting your firepower whilst reducing your defense, or creating a shield around your mech for a short duration. And then femto wings allow you to boost faster without any stamina usage for a short time. It's a nice little system, although not too game-changing. That about covers it, honestly. It's a simple game, but an entertaining one. The story is nothing very interesting or special, frankly, but there's a lot of nice little touches and aspects to the game that make it fun to play, especially in short bursts. If a game like Witcher or Skyrim is a binge game, DXM is one you can just pick up and play whenever you feel like it. It won't be hard to remember where you were. It also doesn't require extreme muscle memory like DMC, where if I don't play that game for a few months, when I pick it up again I feel like a squirrel trying to play the piano. It would be nice to have full campaign co-op, but the idea of having story mode kind of leading into online in a sense is fine as well. At time of writing, there's no DLC for the PC version outside of random cosmetic things you can buy, but the Switch version had a lot of crossover DLC. Hopefully we'll be getting some of that. But thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, ask them down below in the comments and I'll get back to you ASAP. Until next time, I can recommend Daemon X Machina, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.